Us those numbers. I'm joined right now by two members of Congress who have had an opportunity on both sides of the aisle to listen to the numbers and, of course, listen to the president speak right now from France this morning at a town hall meeting. Republican California Congressman Brian Bilbray and Democratic Pennsylvania Congressman Joe Sestak. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Congressman Bilbray, let me start with you, because what we saw in the weekly jobless claims is that one of the hardest hit places, particularly in terms of the unemployment rate, is California. Easily, in some cases, double digits. How ugly are these numbers?
Well, they're very ugly. I think you're looking at a situation where you're not only seeing the compounding of unemployment because of a lot of things that have happened outside of the state, but just the expenses, things like energy being so expensive there, things like the regulatory problems we have in California that's unique to California much more than the rest of the country, and the fact that we were a powerhouse. We were an economic powerhouse with high-tech, biotech, and all of those are going very soft right now because there's a lot of concern with not only those job providers but with the investors that keep those jobs going, that now though investment may not be a thing you want to do in the United States, especially in California, where we just saw announcement of a huge tax increase across the board.
Congressman Sestak, when you look at the markets, we're showing people what's happening with the markets, and people at home are going to think this is odd, that the markets are rallying on what's a very unhappy, ugly number. When the Federal Reserve Bank predicts an 8.8% unemployment rate at the end of the year, and we're at 8.5% in April, clearly they're going to have to review some of those estimates. Pennsylvania, what's happened there?
What we've seen in Pennsylvania, it's been a little slower than elsewhere in the country, but now it's been keeping steady rate over the last 4 months. Our sectors tended to be health and education, and although those went down, they tend to be more stable in any type of recession because education continues and health does. All that said, I believe that the psychology of the market is more focused upon what the Federal Reserve and the TALF program is doing of getting credit going again. We met with Mr. Bernanke, about 9 of us, last week. He made it very clear that now that we've gone into the markets in the past week to actually go and purchase those types of loans that small businesses are making, that the consumers and the auto loans, it was wildly successful now. And so what you're seeing is the market is more responsive to get the mother milk of our economy, credit, getting going again. These numbers were not unexpected. In fact, they're better than private economists predicted at $750,000 unemployed. Yeah. But by the end of this year, all economists know we're going to be about 9.5% to 10% unemployment. Only now, in the last week or two, have the tax cuts that was in the economic stimulus bill been given to people. So you'll see retail beginning to come up again.
Congressman Bilbray, here's the thing. We passed, or you passed, I didn't have anything to do with it actually, a $787 billion stimulus bill. And the concept behind this was that it was going to create or save upwards of 3 million jobs. We've lost 5.1 million thus far. How crucial is it for you to get the funds in your state right away to be used toward either infrastructure or the creation of jobs in healthcare, education, things that we've been talking about?
Well, there are some of this stuff like infrastructure for transportation that can work, can be front-loaded right now. But there's so much with the so-called stimulus package that had other agendas in there. And I think there was a lack of credibility because it looked like it was piling on. I think most of us will agree that at least 20% of that bill was items that can be put online within the next 24 months, like construction of roads and freeways and that stuff. But I think the biggest concern that other people are watching that with one point, but the investors are also looking at concepts of increasing the taxes on investment and looking at hyperinflation coming down the road. You got to remember, we're spending this and committing this money, but there's nobody even talking about how we're ever going to pay it back. So investors and the market is watching that other thing, that the train at the the light at the end of the tunnel may be a train called hyperinflation, and we haven't even talked about that future yet.
The other thing, though, Congressman Sestak, is there are plenty of people who say that the other danger here is that if we continue to lose jobs at the rate that we are losing jobs right now, we actually may have a deflation problem a year or two from now as opposed to an inflation issue. I know that's something that the Fed chair is very much concerned about because we're just not sure that we can recreate these jobs as quickly as they're being lost.
You're absolutely right. That is a longer concern. The more immediate concern is, though, can you stop people from being laid off? This economic stimulus plan was a misnomer. It was really about stopping the hemorrhaging of jobs, slowing it down. because most of the money was intended to go to the governors and to municipalities to say, don't lay off your teachers. We're going to pay you Medicaid so you can give your bills, pay your bills to hospitals so they aren't laying off nurses. That's step number one. However, it's later on when the construction companies get their money to begin the infrastructure, start to recreate jobs. Now, the key issue is, can you slow it down to that 9.5 to 10% and not let it go to 11% where a depression begins, and then the Fed can raise interest rates to help us stop any types of deflation issues?
Here's my concern. I heard both of you mention small businesses. Okay. The Federal Reserve and the Treasury come out with a $15 billion plan to go out there through the TALF program and purchase small business loans. All the smaller institutions who could participate in it said, I don't want to participate in this because if I participate in it, oh, by the way, I have to give preferred shares away to the government. I have to face executive compensation guidelines. If you're Signature Bank, why not just maintain your current portfolio of small business loans and just oversee the portfolio? So here it is. We lost 754,000 according to the ADP private sector number. Are we really addressing the true job growth here, which is small businesses, which represent 70% of the job growth in this country?
Absolutely. And when you talk about, the problem is, I don't mean to hit on this, but when you talk about so-called tax increases on the wealthy, the over 200